The last text message David Coleman ever expected to receive on Christmas Eve was from his 6-year-old daughter's phone, and it read only 3 words, "Mommy is crying." David stared at the screen in the dim light of his small apartment kitchen, his hand freezing mid-motion over a pot of reheated soup, the kind of meal a man eats alone when he has forgotten what it feels like to cook for more than one person. 2 years had passed since his divorce from Sarah, 2 years of holidays split awkwardly between 2 homes, 2 years of pretending that watching his daughter Emily climb into another car and drive away didn't tear something loose inside his chest every single time. He had built a life that functioned, technically, a life with a steady job at the hardware store, an apartment with bare walls, and a routine so rigid it left no room for feeling. But feeling had a way of finding him anyway, especially on nights like this one, when snow pressed softly against the windows and the whole world seemed to be counting down toward a joy he no longer believed belonged to him. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet miracles that happen inside broken families, hit that like button right now, drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from, share this video with someone who needs a little hope tonight, and subscribe to Kindness Corner so you never miss a story like this one. David's thumb hovered over his phone, uncertain whether to call, whether it was his place anymore to ask Sarah if she was all right. Their divorce had not been loud or cruel, it had been worse than that, a slow erosion of 2 people who had simply stopped reaching for each other until one day there was nothing left to hold. He remembered the exhaustion in her eyes during those final months, the late nights he spent at work instead of at home, the birthdays he missed because he told himself the job mattered more, and how by the time he understood what he was losing, she had already packed the boxes. He had told himself for 2 years that she was better off, that Emily was better off, that his presence had only ever brought strain into their lives. But the words on his screen refused to let him hide behind that comfortable lie any longer. He typed a message to Emily, careful and gentle, asking if she was okay, and the reply came fast, her small fingers clearly trembling as she typed that her mother thought she was asleep, that she had heard crying through the wall, that Mommy kept looking at old photos of the 3 of them and whispering David's name like she was sorry for something. David sat down hard on his kitchen chair, the soup forgotten, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. He wanted to dismiss it, to tell himself this was a child's imagination running wild on a lonely night, but something in the plainness of Emily's words struck him as painfully true. Children rarely lied about tears, they simply reported what they saw, without the armor adults use to protect themselves from being truly known. He thought about the last time he'd seen Sarah, 3 weeks earlier, at a school event where they'd stood at opposite ends of the gymnasium, polite and distant, trading only the necessary logistics about pickup times. She had looked tired that night, thinner than he remembered, and there had been a moment, brief and unspoken, when their eyes met across the room and neither of them looked away fast enough to hide what still lingered there. He had driven home telling himself it meant nothing, that old habits of longing die slowly even after love has supposedly ended. Now, staring at his phone, he wondered if he had been wrong to assume the silence between them was mutual peace rather than mutual grief. Before he could second-guess himself, another message arrived from Emily, and this one undid him completely. She wrote that she had asked her mother why she was crying, and her mother said she missed how things used to be, when they were a family, when the house was loud and warm instead of quiet and cold. Emily added, in the unfiltered honesty only a child can offer, that she wished her parents would just hug each other and stop being sad separately instead of together. David read those words 3 times, his vision blurring, the weight of 2 years crashing over him at once. He grabbed his coat before he had even fully decided to go, some instinct older and stronger than logic pulling him toward the door. The drive across town felt endless, snow swirling against his windshield, Christmas lights blinking from every house he passed like 100 small reminders of the warmth he had convinced himself he didn't deserve. When he finally pulled into Sarah's driveway, his hands were shaking, not from the cold but from fear, the particular fear of a man standing at the edge of a chance he thought had closed forever. He knocked softly, not wanting to wake Emily if she had actually fallen back asleep, and when the door opened, Sarah stood there in the porch light, eyes red-rimmed, clearly startled to see him standing in the snow without warning. For a long moment neither of them spoke, the cold air between them thick with everything they had never said. Then David simply told her the truth, that Emily had reached out, that he hadn't come to intrude but couldn't stay away once he knew she was hurting, and that whatever silence had grown between them over these 2 years, he was tired of pretending it didn't cost him something every single day. Sarah's composure cracked then, tears falling freely as she admitted she had spent the whole evening remembering the family they used to be, wondering if she had given up too quickly, if pride and hurt had convinced her to close a door that maybe never needed to be closed at all. David stepped closer, and for the first time in 2 years, he reached out and gently wiped a tear from her cheek, an act so small and so enormous at once that it seemed to loosen something frozen in both their chests. They stood together on that porch for a long while, talking honestly for what felt like the first time in years, not about blame or the past, but about what they had both learned, what they missed, and whether there might still be room to try again slowly, carefully, for Emily and for themselves. When they finally stepped inside, they found Emily peeking around the hallway corner, not asleep at all, her small face lighting up with a hope too pure to hide, and she ran to wrap her arms around both of their legs at once, holding on as if she could physically keep them together through sheer will. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that second chances are real and healing is possible. And before we close tonight's story, we have a special request. Please type the word family in the comments if you believe broken hearts can still find their way home. That Christmas Eve, in a quiet house filled once again with warmth, David Coleman understood that some doors, no matter how firmly they seem closed, are only ever waiting for someone brave enough to knock.